Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and I'm joined by Mike Jones. Hello, Mike Jones.
Hello, Dale. I'm really mad and I don't know why.
That's one thing I love about Mike. He's a perfect companion on the show. Yeah, right.
I have no idea.
Well, we're going to bring you up to date on everything. And boy, there's a lot of stuff to bring you up to date on. So, the first one thing that a number of people have been looking at and kind of waiting for is well, we had our date in the courthouse today. But it didn't happen because
Mhm.
I got notified just a couple of hours before the court time that had been changed. That's nice. It's been changed till Tuesday. I know all you thousands and thousands that were going to jam into that courthouse are disappointed. By
Thousands.
the way, where were you? So we're going to have it instead on Tuesday the 18th at 3 o'clock with Judge Wapner, whatever that means. So
Yeah. Just coming
so
out of retirement.
that's right, that's right, or out of the
Yes.
grave or wherever this guy is. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think is he alive anywhere?
I
Judge
don't
Wapner.
know. Was he ever?
If you know if Judge Wapner is still alive or not, send us an email at
That's right.
nosalestax@grantspass.com.
Mhm.
Okay,
We
there you have it. The
so
important
so
questions
so
of the day.
so that's been pushed back. Okay, we are going to go in case you say, "What, Marge? I don't understand what they're talking about." You haven't been watching our show often enough. So what happened was Sandy Casanelli and Tony Webb got together and did some heavy thinking. There's steam coming out of their ears, buddy, and they were doing some heavy thinking about this Grants Pass city sales tax. And I filed a petition saying I believe that the sales tax, the way that the ballot initiative is written, is wrong. It's wrong because it's supposed to be under only one issue at a time, not three different things. Do you want to get rid of this? Would you like to get rid of that? Now do you feel good? Now we're going to slap this on you. No, it's supposed to be one thing. And we've got, we believe, sufficient evidence, case law, those kinds of things on our behalf. And so we were going to appear in front of the judge today at 3 o'clock. And then there's another group of people, for reasons only they know, who decided not to share with us what they were doing. We're supposed to be allies in this fight against bad things, or at least, doing things properly. And they put in one too, and now they're going to be involved as well. And Kjo is getting it comically wrong. They just can't report this correct at all. They have a copy of the complaint, and well, we don't know what it's about. They've got a copy of it, and they say they don't know what it's about. It's been on this show. Well, they're not going to watch the show because there's news here. I made a speech at the weekly business session. They purport to cover the weekly business session. Oh, that didn't make any sense to them. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know who's involved. Somebody else is writing the thing, not me. It was somebody. They don't know what's going on. So you can just cross them off the list of trying to keep track of what's happening. Bargain basement, they got that going for them. But news, it's a complete wash. Okay, that's Kjo. Don't, not even on your list. The Daily Courier has been approximately half right, but of course they're not going to interview any of us, because why would they do that? They would have two sources, and then they might also get close to the news. They're not attempting to do so. We talk with everybody. We told these other guys who are filing stuff, we've been telling them about our plans from the get-go. We let the media know what's happening. We try to communicate with them. We tell you everything. Everybody hears everything from us. And then we've got people, well, I don't like the way you're doing things. Oh, man, just get over it. Mike, you have any comments about this so far, sir?
No, I have no comment about it, other than, yeah, what a bummer that we didn't get to get this out of the way here today.
Okay, so
Would have been nice.
what's likely to happen? What's normally, you could say there's a really important rule. If you want a quick, decisive answer, you're not going to get one. Okay, so, but in this case, the judge may not be able to goof around for a while. Oh, judges don't goof around. Yeah, sure they don't. He may not be able to do that because faster decisions are going to need to be made on this than usual because, I mean, this thing's going to the ballot. As Art Harvey said, it's going to the ballot and no changes will be made. And if changes were made, the changes won't actually be made. Yeah, whatever Art Harvey is saying. Don't forget, this guy's up for election. So he's reassured everybody everything's fine. This is going to be just fine.
And how does he know? Is he having a confab with the judge? Is the judge telling him what the decision's going to be before? What's the deal?
Hey,
what is he, a lawyer? I didn't know he was a lawyer.
Does he know what the vote's going to end up being already? This guy's going to be counting his own votes. What do you think?
Listen, he should keep his mouth shut. I don't understand him interjecting at all.
Well, he did.
It's kind of out of place.
Yeah, it's like Mark Bartholomew, the city attorney, saying, nobody's challenging this. There's nothing to challenge. It's perfectly fine the way that it is. He's been saying that. And the Courier's been, thank you for telling us that. And then I guess it was in a press release because it's the only way they're going to get the news. Right? And so they write it, that's what he says. Well, we're going to find out. Now, look. I'm not nervous about this thing at all. I'm truly not. I just don't want to say, your judgeship when it's supposed to be your honor, or forget to wear my powdered wig or some other kind of thing. There's a certain amount of ceremony that's involved and the way that you're supposed to handle yourself. Like I saw one where the guy tried to go up and talk to the judge about something, and you're supposed to may I have your permission to approach the bench. You're not going to be asking me to approach any bench. He's going to want me to sit there and basically shut up, and everybody that way. Okay. So, but aside from just saying something wrong, which I try not to do except on the show, there's no worries. I mean, the judge is either going to see what the law says and say yes, or he's going to see what it says and say no, or whatever. And like I was saying last night, very much like the Olympics. The Olympics doesn't pick the best athlete in the entire world. The Olympics picks from among the best athletes who was best that one day. And we've all heard the stories about people going to then somebody nudges them and they end up running off the track and they break their leg. Well, I guess you're not the best this 4 years. What are you going to do? You just take your case before the judge and say, seems pretty clear to me that the way this is written, it violates the single subject rule. And you're on track when you go to Wally Hicks and I say, and I'm going to go over and I'm going to turn in this thing. He says, you're bringing up the single subject rule, aren't you? It's got a name. He knew it without me even saying anything to him. So, yeah, it's pretty obvious that is one. And they're going to say, oh, well, look, they're all related. Look, one of them is a tax on property and the other's a tax on things. Aren't those exactly the same? Because, it's all about American dollars, greenbacks. No, they're not exactly the same. One's about being a property owner and the other's about buying things. One applies only to people to own property and the other applies to everybody. They're a little bit different there, buddy.
Right. And the other one is a surcharge on your water and sewer bill, which is not really a tax, although it's, boy, I don't know how they could have bumped it up on I mean, it really is a tax. There isn't any question that it's a tax, but they say it's a fee. So that's the story that they have to stick with. And you got taxes and fees intermingling here, commingling. What's going to happen next,
Well, this whole commingling thing just makes me nervous. Makes you want to run up a Confederate flag up the pole, doesn't it? We don't like commingling in this area. Yeah, haha. Okay, so Mike, but it was Wally Hicks that was talking to us about the difference between a fee and a tax. Do you remember what he said?
Yes, but
nobody knows. Nobody knows what the heck the difference is.
It's right. It's a subjective thing, and they can spin it one way or the other, however they want to. I mean, we just went through that with the Affordable Care Act. So the what's a fee and what's a tax? It depends on what government wants to get done.
Right. You go in and you pay 25 cents per page for the toner and the paper to get a copy from the county government. How'd that fee get started? So we're going to update you about everything. So I'm at a meeting with the county commissioners on Thursday, just yesterday, and a fellow comes in from the U.S. Forest Service. Now, I've sat in the meetings with the commissioners, and they've said the Forest Service really needs to have helipads. This is very topical today. Okay, we're experiencing a little slower bandwidth, so if it looks like I'm only saying every other word, hopefully you can hear better than you can see. Okay, so that side. So they're saying that this Forest Service really needs helipads because when they come in and they touch down, let's say at the IV airport, um, they could use a hard pad to do this. Well, one of the things that's a little bit challenging about this hard pad that they need is sometimes every kind of vehicle leaks some kind of fuel, especially vehicles that have been flying around and etc. And so if you're going to be leaking fuel, that's not really good for the water table underneath it because it goes off to the river and ends up in your drinking water, which isn't very nice.
Hang on a second. Fuel that has leaked onto the helipad, they're worried about its impact environmentally?
It's the way that I said that. If they don't have a helipad, see, they need helipads, they believe, because one, it doesn't kick as much foreign FOD,
Right.
foreign object debris around, and there's a lot by helicopter, especially, and they would appreciate the idea of having some kind of pad that they can sit down on that's not going to be quite as likely to end up with fuel spilling all over the place. Okay. And they have to refuel also, of course, and so there's always the danger of that. So anyway, they need something that's somewhat special. And my view here, by the way, on the screen is kind of blanking in and out. I'm just going to hope that you can see pixelated, although I may sound that way occasionally.
Yeah, I can. And listen, if you feel like you can go for a second, I think I'm going to look into a possibility that might make this a little better.
Okay, I'm going to go for a second. Thank you, Mike.
Go for a second. All right.
I can go for a second. So, oh, I know what he's going to tick on. Honey, are you on the telephone? Yeah, they're out in a limited bandwidth area, and that sometimes causes some problems. Okay, so, they're talking in a little back room, the commissioners are, and they're laughing and they're joking with Larry Graves about this thing. Now, see, you're supposed to set a fee and have some kind of justification for the fee. We're talking about fees versus taxes. You're supposed to have a justification. Why are you charging this amount? Not just because you need money, but because there's some kind of logical reason behind it. Did that do it, Mike?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay. All right. So they're talking about the fact that the county needs the money, and let's just set a fee at anything that we want to for rental of these pads to them, because it'll cost us some dollars to set these up, but we can set it up any way that we want. So they're paid for in a year by jacking the fees up sky high. Well, now wait a minute. You may say, well, yeah, that's the federal government deserves that. That's our money. I mean, that's the money that you paid in federal taxes, and yes, it's nice to get it back. But what they're doing is they're cheating us. They're cheating themselves. Everybody's being cheated. Don't do that.
Yeah, well, you know what bothers me about that is that, listen, I'm all for getting more of the federal government's money to us because they owe it to us, and they're in breach of contract. If you're asking me, that's just my opinion. Okay,
yes.
So if that's the case, why not take a hard line with them on that instead of trying to come around the backside and sneak in a fast one on them? I mean, that's the same thing that they're doing to you. Just call them on their issue.
Well, we're going to talk. One of my favorite shows now is on Sundays, where we've been talking about the charter, and we did go through the charter. And so now what we're doing doing is, what would you do if you were running for commissioner? All of you, we're all running for commissioner. And what would you do on day one, day two, in fact, hour one, hour two, hour three? What would you do? And the very first thing I'm going to suggest that we should consider for the very first day at the Ann Basker Auditorium, first vote that we take is send a letter, Wally Hicks, to the federal government, finally saying, we've had it up to here with you guys. You were breaching the contract. We expect action from this. Now, they may just laugh, but by gosh, we'd be on the record for it. And the commissioners have not done that. And so, now why would, oh, yes, we have. We've done many things. No, you haven't, because I don't recall saying that. I recall people saying to you that you ought to do that. But where's the real action been? Why haven't we seen a copy of that if you've done that? I don't think they have done it. So we're going to find out about that kind of thing. And we're going to put it, and the next thing would be about funding the sheriff's department. Our stand with the federal government, funding the sheriff's department. We're going to bring you up to date on that this Sunday. Join us, and let's all run for county commissioner, all of us together, okay? So, so they also took a similar stand about this with the post office. The post office, you may recall, out in Cave Junction, it burned down. And so they said, well, we've got office space where you can go. So they were talking about, well, how much do we think we should charge them? Well, there's a county building out there. And here's the discussion they had. I don't know what the bottom line is, because they hardly ever talk about bottom lines. What happened to that decision that you were trying to make? Because they talk about making a decision sometime, most of the time, but not all the time, in public session, and then they make it and you never hear what it was. Never. There's your transparency. So they were saying, well, we can charge the post office anything we want. Oh, shouldn't we charge them what we charge everybody else? Yeah, I know we're supposed to, but let's not. And then they laugh about it. Well, no, wait a minute. That's not the way it's supposed to be. So the same thing with the Forest Service. We'll charge them anything we want. So the Forest Service guy comes in and he makes his Forest Service kind of report about what's happening. He gets up to leave, and I went out in the hallway and I said to him very, very nicely, I told him the laugh that they had at the U.S. Forest Service's expense. Oh, we're so concerned about forest fires. Yeah, but then you're going to rake these guys over the coals for putting in a helipad. Okay, it should be based on reality and not just based on the money that you want to bring into county government. Okay, and then put into the general fund. Simon here could go off on more trips. All kinds of wonderful things could happen from this too. But it should be based on reality. And I said to the guy, I've now told you what's happened. I was very nice to him. I wasn't poking him in the chest or anything. I said, now you know. So when you're doing your contract negotiations, which will probably be an executive session, you need to drive a harder bargain back, because they are saying and laughing about the fact that they can charge you anything that they want to, and they don't have to justify anything because you're sort of over a barrel on this. I said, now, if it turns out where it's a really high price, I have told you, in my opinion, it's your responsibility to tell your forest supervisor. If you don't, I will. And he just looks at me
and the issue there is that they're government employees and they don't care. It's not their money either.
Yeah, well, and honesty anywhere. And I don't like them laughing about the fact that they're going to jack up the price just to get more out of the government. That's also our money. Don't do that.
Well, if they were so concerned about getting a few extra bucks, maybe they might deal with the public access thing, the non-factor that it is, and get the extra couple $100,000 out of that whole contract, as opposed to whining and crying that you're not getting what you want.
Now that's video that, go, Mike, go.
No, that's
video we're going to show you tomorrow. We've got an extended video segment from the little back room. You may recall, with public access and Charter Cable, the contract's going to be up again. This will be for a decade. And so Charter says that what they'd like to see that the public access money actually goes to public access and not just lip service about it. Now, where do you suppose they're getting their information that the commissioners have not been telling them the truth about what's been happening with public access? Who would tell Charter Cable what's actually happening and share videos with them about these meetings?
Dale's going to wake up with cement shoes at some point here.
That's right. That's exactly right. So I tell you what happened with this thing and the Infrastructure Finance Authority. We talked about this before. We're putting into context with you. Cheryl Walker went to the state's Infrastructure Finance Authority. It does exactly what it sounds like it does, and she told them that the school district, not the one for Grants Pass High School, but the one that covers all the rest of them, that they were fully on board. Fully on board. She said so in a public meeting, that she told the Infrastructure Finance Authority they were fully on board. I never said that, she said at a public meeting. Oh, yes, you did. And she said that in front of Rob Brandis, who was there, in front of the other two commissioners, and that was part of the marching orders. Let's tell them that the school district's on board. Only thing is, school district wasn't on board. Now, maybe according to the commissioners, that's kind of stupid, but they weren't on board. And so she was trying to influence the Infrastructure Finance Authority, which is also your money now coming in from the state of Oregon, that they should be building Cheryl Walker Special Project out in Merlin, in the North Valley, where only North Valley people are involved. That these guys are fully on board. So I went to the next meeting of the school board and I said, are you fully on board? And they said, no, we're not on board at all. And I said, well, it might interest you to know that Cheryl Walker's telling the Infrastructure Finance Authority that you are fully on board. Oh, really? Now, this was a problem with Don Reedy as an example. Don Reedy was the liaison to the airport board out at IV. And I was there videotaping all of their meetings and all the meetings of the county commissioners. And Don Reedy would go to that meeting and, well, I've done the best that I can for you out here in Cave Junction. I've just been saying to the commissioners that you guys are wonderful and that your stand about this perimeter fence makes total sense and that they just won't listen to reason. Then he goes back to the county commissioners. These guys out in Cave Junction, man, they think they're going to get a perimeter fence, and it's just nonsense. It was black and white, buddy. It was plain as the nose on your face. He was telling two different stories. So I pointed that out at both places because I happen to be, I guess, the only one that was going to both kinds of meetings. I go to all the meetings. He was lying to everybody. He didn't like that. And that's where we get in so much trouble. I get in so much trouble. And it slops over onto Mike as well. Why, you guys, you just don't like anything. No. I just have a thing about lying and government perfidy. That's that kind of paper that you get at Staples.
Yeah.
You know, the kind that's got the 3 holes on one side and then won't run through your dang printer. Yeah.
Yes, I have plenty of perfidy.
Yes, you do. So now this lady here, she's from the BLM. After those big fires that we had out in the end of 2013, at the beginning of 2014, they were doing an after action report about how nicely everything turned out. So I went to that. We played back that video for you and said, may I ask a question? Yeah, sure. And I said, now, you guys have been doing an excellent job, but fighting the fires. And everybody had said so. It's happening now. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I said, but you're not the Bureau of Fire Management. You're the Bureau of Land Management. Would you agree that some of the citizens that have been criticizing you for the way that you've been handling your parts of the forest has actually led to more fires? Well, yeah, well, we've got people who would love to talk to you after the meeting about that.
After the press has left.
This is where I get my reputation. Why, that's not very kind of you. Yeah, well, so is burning forests. It's not very nice. And I said, would you agree I understand that you're going to want to try to make a habitat for all the animals and the birds and etc. But I think you'd have to agree that this isn't a very good habitat anymore, is it? It's burned down. And the official answer that I got, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. The official answer I got was, well, it's still a habitat. It's still a habitat?
Yes.
Yeah, now it's just
it's just
habitat.
for, yeah, it's just for totally different types of animals. That's all. The animals that like, burned out areas. There has to be some animals that actually like that. Certainly, because, before we came along, God started forest fires and he let them burn themselves out. So certainly there's something that likes a burned out space. Right?
Besides government bureaucrats? Yeah, maybe.
No, they're listen. They're looking out for the burned out animal creatures.
This is the kind of questions we ask. You guys are terrible. Why? And once again, at the weekly business session, we've got this Democrat person. Where I grew up. Now, this is just where I grew up, Mike. Where I grew up, the Democrats were in charge. This is in California, in the area of California I lived in. And it was the Republicans who were getting up and saying the strangest things. I mean, I know, even as a kid, I'm like, what the heck is this guy talking about? And they were doing like dirty tricks and stuff like that. Here, the Republicans are mostly in charge, and it's these goofy Democrats. I guess it's a factor of being out.
Excuse me.
We're saying the goofiest things.
Where are the Republicans in charge anywhere around here?
Okay, all right. Now there is a question about
now you may
Republicans. Yeah.
You may have a greater presence of the Republican Party in Josephine County, but if you think that Keith Heck, Cheryl Walker, and Simon Hare are representatives of the Republican base, hello, guess again. These are tax and spend liberals, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Okay, all right, they're rhinos. This is a political show. We can say that. Not Cheryl Walker, but two of them are rhinos. That's right. And I have often said, hey, where's the real conservatives running? At least, where's the fiscal conservatives? Where's the people and we're going to get to this thing about the public access money in a moment. It's amazingly stupid. Okay, I don't mind saying that. Okay,
stupid.
But yeah, it is that. But what's happening now is, you tell me the political party of the person who would say this, and it just doesn't even matter who it is. It's just we've seen this over and over and over again. Somebody comes to the weekly business session. They say, I just think it's terrible the way the people criticize you, county commissioners.
Democrat.
Why they need to they need to understand you're doing the best job that you can
every single time. No, I'm telling you that is one thing. The people that wear the Democrat label proudly around here, they're way out on the left wing, way out there.
What the heck are they? They're not even a unified party in this place. I just don't understand it. I'm happy to not be part of any party because they're praising two people who are supposed to be Republicans and one who's just Dave Toller in a pantsuit, and it's unbelievable to me that they get up and they let people speak if they have something negative to say or if they're where'd you come from this? What kind of American is this? It's nutty.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
I've never seen anybody act like that any other place that I've been, except for people who are on the out of the political control. It's amazing to me. Where did they pick that up from? The party platform? Whose party platform has that in there?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, the one thing that is a recurring theme with these guys is they love government. It doesn't matter what government's doing. We're in favor of it. We love it. We love what government's doing. And don't you dare say anything bad about government. And especially if we have a pet inside of government, which Cheryl Walker is their pet inside government. And all she has to do is make a phone call. Oh my gosh, they're treating me badly over here. And then they show up. There's,
One.
Yeah,
One person. So it's a
well,
different person every
there's
time.
there's 5 or 6 people that show up, but one that comes up and slathers all over them and tells them how wonderful they are. And not that that person would know because they never ever come to a meeting, but
And they say things like, "This is the best board of commissioners we've ever had in the history of Josephine County." I mean,
based on
when
what
you even
reference?
yeah, and when you hear Simon Hare saying something, this is Simon Hare, purportedly not a Democrat, and when he says something like, "We have the most transparent county in the entire world," anytime you hear that kind of phrase, especially spoken by someone from government, you go, "Oh man, I mean, my BS meter is just, what the world are you saying?"
Yeah. And you know what? I think when a politician says, we're going to be the most responsible, most transparent, blah, 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 whenever they say that, that's time for that guy to go. Just whatever is happening, the next opportunity you have to get rid of that guy, do it because he just lied to you. And, we've proven that over and over. They don't want transparency any way, shape, or form. They're not interested in it. They'd like to say that they're being transparent, but this situation with the cable contract is case in point.
Okay, so common theme about this is, where are people getting their information? As we said last night, it's absolutely essential to stop the flow of information. Okay, and this doesn't even have to do with the point of view. It's just like, would you like to see the videotape? Yes, I would. As opposed to the people at that Democrat meeting I went to where I said I got the videotape. They don't want to see the videotape. That's just confusing to see the videotape. Not me talking, just that person talking, and they don't want to see that. So there's a fellow at Charter Cable. It's time for renewal of their contract for a decade. And so he comes to the commissioners. He says, "I understand that you aren't actually providing access to your citizens, which they are now paying for. You are not providing it to them." "Oh, where would you get that idea? Why, they just don't want any." Yes, I know that's not the truth. Now, where do you suppose that he found out that that's not the truth? Well, it's something I've been working on for more than a decade, and so is Sandy Casanelli. It's how I got involved in local government anyway. I'm involved in television production. I'm kind of surprised that there aren't more kids on TV and that there's not more local, team sports on TV, and that there's not even the dang Boatnik parade on TV, right? And so you're out on your summer vacation or something. I never get to go on vacation, but and you can't watch a replay of your friends from the active club or something. No, because it's not there. Well, why isn't it there? There are volunteers. I am one of them, and we went out one year with 8 cameras, and we 8 cameras, and we put together the whole parade. You think that we could get them to play that on cable TV, on our local public access channel? It's not public access. It's government access. But it's not supposed to be. We're paying for public access. We don't get it. Well, that's kind of boring. Oh, all right. Do you think that your grandniece and nephew singing "I'm a Little Teapot" or something, is that boring to you personally? Well, I don't have any kids in school. Okay. Are you part of a club, any kind of club? Are you part of the Rotary Club? For heaven's sake, are you part of the Tomato Club? Would you
Well,
like people to know a little bit about how to grow better tomatoes, Mike? Would you?
yeah, but listen. Thankfully, we do have public access now. In spite of government, we have public access.
Yes, we
And
do.
not because of government. And the funny thing is, they've been working on this for years, trying to
Yes.
give public access, and yet here comes some little free enterprise thing, comes up, boom, blows right by you. Now anybody that wants to have their own show can have it.
Yes.
They don't need you anymore.
And you
it's
don't
sad
pay,
that you're not doing what you're supposed to.
Now, we're
Right.
doing this show the way we want to, because there's nobody that's analyzing local politics. But we can do 5 different shows if we want to. All I have to do is convince Mike that we need to do something more than once a day, live at 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. approximately. And once Mike commits more of his life to this, and I find more hours in the day, stop
Listen,
sleeping all the time.
Dale, I don't want to do the show about show tunes. I just don't.
About show tunes, yes, right. That's
Yes.
funny. Okay, I was telling Mike about some stuff from
Yeah,
a
yeah,
funny thing
yeah.
happened on
Yeah,
the way to
yeah,
Florida.
yeah. That's right.
It's a
Explain it
wonderful musical.
away.
I'm not interested in musicals, but this is hilarious. It's an old one.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
Sure.
anyway, so now, and it doesn't mean this show needs to be on there, but you might like to see what it is these characters are doing behind the scenes. So Charter comes back and he says, you're really supposed to be doing this. You're supposed to be doing it. Now, the fellow that told us we have the most transparent government in the entire world here in Josephine County, he's dead set against this. What happened to Simon here that got him so dead set against it? When he first came into office, I was in the middle of a 6-month term showing them that this could be done absolutely, totally for free. And all that I was doing was simply taping their meetings and then putting them on cable TV. Yes, but you were commenting. No, I wasn't commenting. Yes, but you were picking and choosing. I wasn't picking and choosing. Well, you were inserting your edit. No, 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 no. I was just playing back their meetings. That's all. But there's many opportunities. No, there were not many opportunities for criticizing. No, it was just their meetings, only their words. That's all. So Simon here comes in, and the way he told it at the time was he was getting criticized by his friends for something he had said at a meeting. No, what do you mean something I said in a meeting? Because he says I don't have cable TV. Well, I saw it on cable TV. You said something in that little back room. What? What do you mean? Well, now, Simon, what do you think that guy's doing back there with that camera? I mean, yes, you're audio recording it, but he's video recording it. Yeah, well, they can always go and listen to the audio. Yes, they can, but they don't. Well, they could, but they don't. Well, they don't. But if you record it and put it on TV, somebody's going to watch it. And his friends are criticizing him for something he said. Well, it was stupid, but he said it. Well, he didn't like that. And so he declared there would be no television, none at all, nothing. No Aunt Basker recordings, no Little Backroom recordings, nothing. Well, it can't stop me from recording it, but they weren't going to put that on cable TV and cancel the deal with us, and we were doing it for free, absolutely no cost. So it wasn't long after that, it was about a month or so, that he started it back up again, but only the Aunt Basker. Now, because we told you, that's largely ceremonial. They make the decision in the Little Back Room, and then they come forward and they ratify the vote that they just took. I mean, the guy's already working there, but they're now ratifying it. See, oh, well, there's your opportunity for public discussion. Should this be done? Well, it's already a done deal, so what are you going to say? So he likes only that, accessible easily by you. Only that. We're a major thorn in his side because we're showing you what they do all the time. It's transparency. I'm sure she didn't like that, this lady over my shoulder, that we put out there for everybody to see this goofy answer they gave us. They don't like that kind of transparency. They only like the kind of transparency that shows them in their best light. That we don't always just show them in their worst light, but there's a lot of material. So he says to Charter Cable, and he gets the other two commissioners to agree with him, especially Cheryl Walker. I think we should just pull the plug altogether. Really? Simon doesn't want to. He wants the people to see the weekly business session, which is at the end during his protected time. I'm out there and I'm working for you and I'm doing this and doing that. There's no results to see so far, but one of these years, right, he's been doing that for 5 years now. So Charter comes back and they say, look, what you're going to need to do is you need to at least put on 8 hours of programming a week. 8 hours. That's all that we're asking. Well, he says we can't possibly put on 8 hours of programming. Mike, would you please explain for our audience? We've talked about this once before. If you watch it every night, sorry. But Mike, can you explain to them how it's possible for these. It's so frustrating to sit because you can't say anything. 8 hours, we can't do 8. I don't know how we're going to do 8 hours. Oh, there's 8 hours. It's impossible to do 8 hours. Where are we going to find 8 hours? Who in the world could do 8 hours? Mike, please explain to them the simple answer, which I've already told them about how they can do 8 hours.
Well, it's just real simple. I'm sure that there is a a player, and you stack the programming in the player and schedule things to start at a certain time. And I don't know about the interface that they're using there, so I'm just unfamiliar with it. I'm used to programming radio, so that's different. But not much, because all you're doing is you're essentially coming up with a schedule, dragging and dropping files. You're done. It's not a big deal.
I meant thank you, but I meant, where would they find 8 hours per week of stuff to show on cable TV?
They've got an archive. They have an archive that years of stuff there. They could play everything that's happened in the last couple of months.
I'm going to toss this in, and you'll say immediately, "Oh, yeah, of course."
Okay.
They have more than 8 hours of meetings a week. Of course they do.
Oh, and right. So, if they added in the little back room stuff, right.
Easily. And do they need to video record the little backroom stuff? Yes, that'd be better, but they don't have to video.
Yes, I understand. They don't want people seeing that.
Right.
So I mean, look, it's bad enough they have to be in front of you during the weekly business session. They don't want to be in front of you for the back room stuff. That's the whole point of being in the back room, is so that they're not in front of people.
Well, I think that's true. Okay, so what I said to each of them individually, because I would not talk to them in a quorum. I don't talk to them in a quorum. And so now my screen shows entirely black. But oh, there I am. I'm back on my screen. I'm frozen. Whatever. So frozen and indecision. I've described to each of the commissioners and to Wally Hicks, when they're flailing around, there's not 8 hours. We'll never find 8 hours. Look, you meet more than 8 hours. I mean, the long meeting yesterday was almost 2.5 hours. Yes, it's true that the weekly business session was only half an hour, but when you have and that's very, very rare. It's not rare to have a 2-hour meeting. When you've got a half-hour meeting and a 2.5-hour meeting, guess what? That equals 3 hours. I mean, even I can do that math, okay? So here's the point. What you do is, for the time when you've got the video, you put up the video. For the time you don't have video, you put up a slide saying commissioners will now blather on for 2.5 hours, and you play the audio.
Yeah, that's easy.
It's super simple. You just put up a slide saying you are now listening to the, and they've got more than 8 hours. And I'm sitting there behind the camera, and I want to say something, but I'm prohibited from saying stuff. Other people can say something. I cannot. They often will say, "Do you have something to say in the audience?" And it happens all the time. Or somebody in the audience will suggest, "Oh, that's a very good suggestion." Not from me. Okay. Not from Dale Matthews. Fine. But I know a little bit about this subject. And all that you need to do is just put up the slide saying, "This is the audio section," and then play the audio. They've got more than 8 hours. And what do we, 8 hours? 8 hours. That's impossible. We can't possibly do 8 hours. Blah, blah, blah. So I talked to Steve Gerber. Steve Gerber is the guy at Charter. And I said, here's their answer. Don't cut this off. Now, look, why the heck do I care? I don't have cable. We have our own show. We're playing back their videos. Why should I care? Because there are a lot of people in this community, not as many as watch our show, nowhere near as many as watch our show, on a nightly basis. On a nightly basis, we get more viewers by the next morning of either they're watching it live or they click on it than the commissioners have at most weekly business sessions. And when you add it all up, our weekly total is more than their yearly total just for this show. Okay? But that's not the point. There are a number of people who watch it on cable. Plus, it's an underutilized resource. There's plenty that can be done with this. And it's part of the contract that we have with Charter. And this is signing a 10-year charter with these guys. Okay? So Simon Harris, ready to throw it all away. Ready to throw it all away. Mike, why don't you tell our audience what kind of money he's willing to throw away because he's so adamant that he doesn't want it playing more than just that one show? What kind of money are we talking about?
It's a couple $100,000.
That's correct. This is free money coming into the county general fund. A county general fund, yes, it's not earmarked for anything. It could be used for Simon Hare travel. It could. And there's also putting at risk a $2 million contract with Charter for the access. And he's saying, oh, maybe we got to pull the whole plug. And Cheryl's saying, maybe we got to find another company. You guys are screwing around with a $2 million contract because Simon doesn't want anything more than one meeting showing?
Yes.
Now, why is this? Well,
and how do you think the citizens of Grants Pass will feel about that when all of a sudden they are informed that they got about a 60-day notice before there's no more cable TV? You know?
Yeah, that's the big bad one. They're screwing around with the 10-year contract. Even more than that, let's suppose, well, there's no real damage. Nobody's going to pull out. That's not real. We're just blustering. Okay, but what's not bluster is that Charter Cable is willing to pay $200,000 more than the county government is, not you and me. The county government's getting right now more if they'll just please sign this contract, which includes, one part of it is, when you say you're going to provide public access, you at least provide government access. No, we're not going to do that. You know, that's unbelievable. Everybody stared at Simon and went, what the heck are you talking about? We made a wonderful deal, and he didn't like it, so they changed it. So then the county, I'm not making this up, so the county government would have 2 years to get their act together. You'll get 2 years to get up to the point where you're presenting more than the weekly business session. No, that's not good enough, says Simon Hare. Why? We'll be saddling people in the future with having to produce 8 hours of programming, which they're already doing. And even if they weren't, we'd give it to them for free. They all know that. Free. Now, why would we do that, Mike? Why we do this stuff for free? Mike Jones, why do we do that?
Because we're stupid. We don't have lives.
That may also
be. Yes. Because we want to provide some transparency and we want people to understand what's going on in local government. And,
But Mike Jones, who provides your funding? I know there's someone providing your funding.
I'll never tell. I'm
going to look it up and tell him.
I'm not drinking David Coca-Cola.
Oh, man. So he's really willing to turn that down. So I called Steve. This is where he's getting his information. I called him. And he says, so what's going on with these guys? Because he doesn't know. But I called him right after the meeting. And I said, here's what's going on. I said, do you want to see the entire video of it? He said, no, you don't need to do that. I mean, actually, it'd be kind of interesting. He says, but I sure don't need to see Simon Hare's face while he's saying all this, right? Because even the others are looking at him. Wally Hicks is looking at him. Cheryl Walker's looking at Simon Hare. Keith Thack is looking at Simon Hare. They've come to a conclusion. They've got 2 years. They're kicking the can down the road for 2 years for something they could do tomorrow. And Simon Hare's not happy. He doesn't want it to be in there at all because he doesn't want anything more than his speeches, really, at the weekly business session to be shown to you. This is not transparency. So what I said to Steve Gerber was, please, they're talking about a month-to-month extension. He said, we're not interested in a month-to-month trend. We're doing it already. And I said, I know. I said, but look, in a little bit over a year, 2 of these characters will be out of there. We're all running on Sundays. We're all running for county commissioner. We're going to have some sanity involved with this thing. And Simon Harris and his opinions will be taken into account and then overruled. I said, so if you can wait just a little bit longer. And he said, well, we're really not so interested in waiting a little longer. Understanding from his point of view, they want to sell that channel. They want to have the 4th version of the Diamond L network on cable TV, not a different one. Just as you're flipping through, I don't know if you know this about cable, but as you're flipping through, you keep seeing the Diamond L network. You keep seeing these various places that are trying to sell you. Oh, it's the best thing that's ever been invented. And it's like on there 4 or 5 times. How can it be the same thing 4 or 5 times? Well, because somebody's willing to pay for you, thinking that maybe you're going to stop one of those 4 or 5 times as you're trying to find something interesting. And if they can sell you something, they'll buy another. one. And they probably get a combination deal. It's going to be almost the same price for 5 Diamond L networks as it is for 4. If you don't know what a Diamond L is, good for you. Okay, so this is the way, and this is why this is over my shoulder with I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that because we're being treated like these guys are in charge and they're not hearing us. I've told them several times that they've already got their programming, and they're still saying we don't have the programming. What are we going to do? And tearing out their hair. It's impossible that they don't know. So when you're searching for an answer about why this is happening, it's because Simon doesn't want you to see what it is they're doing, and he's satisfied with the fact that you've got to go listen and search through the archives of the county commissioners online if you've got cable. I mean, if you've got internet, I hope you do, watching the show. And then you listen to an audio recording. People just don't do it. Maybe they should, they just don't. Mike?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I don't have anything to add to that.
Yeah, it is one of my issues, and so
yes,
yeah, he's a person with issues. Yes. So anyway, what we'll do tomorrow is we will play you back this meeting. We'll talk about a little bit. One more little thing to add in about being treated impersonally is before yesterday's meeting, I'm sitting out in the hallway, as I always do. And you can hear that there are voices inside that room. They used to let us in time to kind of sit down, take a chair, me to set up. I'm the only one that needs to set anything up because I'm there as your witness and also to help. You're sitting right there with me because you're inside the camera, right? And you're watching this stuff. And when somebody has a loud, boisterous voice, you can hear it. It comes through the door. It's not like I'm sitting there hoping on something and I'm not recording outside trying to capture all this or putting some kind of listening device on them or whatever. I'm not doing any of that. But you can hear right through the door. And so you've got a pretty good idea of who's speaking. Maybe not what they're saying, but who's speaking. This time, it was our sheriff, Dave Daniel, and it was Cheryl Walker, you could tell, and it was Keith Eck. I didn't hear Simon Harris' voice back there. And they're speaking loud enough that you can pick up a little here and there of what they're saying. I'm not looking to pick that up, but you can't help it if you're sitting there. And it just goes right through that door. Okay, maybe they need a thicker door, or maybe they need to stop breaking the law because they're talking about county business with the sheriff before opening the door. The door is closed and locked. And they're talking county business. This is blatantly illegal. And it involved the sheriff. I don't mind saying it. It's the truth. Sheriff's not going to like it. Sorry, Sheriff. That's what you were doing. The sheriff was not breaking the law, but the commissioners were. They're talking about county business together or with the sheriff about something about numbers. I couldn't understand the numbers, and I'm pretty sure they were not talking about the price of daffodils. So after the sheriff was done, he was the first person on the agenda. I walked out into the hallway as he's walking away, and I said, Sheriff, just got a question for you. When you arrived, you were talking with Cheryl and Keith about, it was about county business, right? And he said, I wasn't talking with Cheryl and Keith.